This business podcast, the Two Business Guys Mastermind, uncovers for you secrets and share tips and tricks to entrepreneurship as they mastermind on how to have startup, operational, and overall business success so that you can go on to get better results. Enjoy. The Two Business Guys Mastermind on whether or not you are in the right business for your personality, for your family, for your finances, for your well-being, for your temperament. Are you in the right business? Enjoy. Welcome back, everybody. John and I, we were talking off camera about today's topic, and we've got a couple things that we're going to do differently for you today. And, the two guys, are not only masterminding, we are creating something interesting for you. So this session of the Two Business Guys Mastermind is going to show you one of the products that we're creating. We might even go into a little bit of how we created it. But this episode is about, are you in the right business? Now, when we say, are you in the right business, there are some caveats to that. Are you in the right business for your personality? Are you in the right business for your family? Are you in the right business for your finances? And we're going to dive into that a little bit more. Are you in the right business for your well-being? Right? If you like to relax and woosah and all that kind of stuff, you go over into a high-powered environment. Guess what? You're not in the right business for that part of what you want. Are you in the right business for your temperament? Knowing thyself, right? Into thy own self be true. I'm messing up the whole quote. But anyway, all matters. Are you in the right business for your work ethic? That's what we're going to be talking about next on the Two Business Guys Mastermind. John, hey man, how are you?
I am wonderful, Randy. Only a few more days until the Christmas holiday. I bet you everybody is out spending, racking up credit card debt, and then in a couple of weeks they're going to wonder, hey, how are we going to pay this back? And entrepreneurship is one of the only ways in which you can determine your income. When you work from a 9-to-5 job, they tell you there's a salary. This is what it is. Most individuals, unless you're in some kind of sales or role with different types of incentives, there's no room for to make anything over that salary. So business ownership, whether that's a side hustle or whether that's owning your own business full time and doing it yourself, is the only way to effectively control your financial destiny.
And I think a lot of people are becoming aware of this. Entrepreneurs out there, you're becoming aware of this more and more with what happened. Right. And this is one of the reasons why John and I formed this, right? The Two Business Guys Mastermind. And we wanted to be able to come in and share our thoughts, share our feelings, share our failures, right? And share some of the things that affect your ability to earn your living, and not just talk about it. We want to start saying in offering some kind of help to that effect too. You can always hire us. We can definitely help you in your business, right? So, but we also think about, these small little things that you can do to start uncapping that income, right? And that's one of the things that today's topic is going to cover, right? But first, we wanted to show you something. We just created a product, and let me see if I can get over to it real quick. I'm going to share the screen right quick and get over to it. So here it is, everybody. Straight up Entre Hustler. Now, this is what we want to show you. When you're conceiving an idea, and if you listen to some of the other podcasts, go back if you haven't listened to some of the other podcasts. We talk about being able to create stuff, right? So John gets an idea, he says, hey, what do you think about this? And says, well, let's check it out, right? So we know we have a community of entrepreneurs that we're talking to all the time, but when John thought about, hey, what would it sound like? What would it be like? Then that's one of the processes that starts the mental engine going. And then you say, well, let's check it out. What could we do with this idea? right? So John and I last week went back and forth. I says, well, I don't like this. Maybe you ought to change a couple of things. He, goes back and change it, a couple of dollars. Now we're talking really not a lot of money, but when you're starting stuff out, you don't want to spend a whole bunch of money. You want to know that you have a community of people that might buy it. So that's what we kind of are going to test it here in a couple of days. But you get something in front of them, right? So we say, okay, for a couple of bucks, I think this all costs maybe $30 altogether, right? You have to go back and get some stuff fixed. So now you go, okay, what can we do with this? So I'm going to also show you. We'll stop this share here, go to another screen, and then we're literally going to try to load this thing up and see if we can come up with something that is really cool for you guys, right? And we do this for our community. We've got some giveaways. If you buy one of these, depending if we put it on a mask, if we put it on a shirt, we put it on a hoodie, then what we're going to do is say, hey, listen, let me get into this one here. We can give you some stuff, right? All right, so here's our store, right? We're going to go over to teespring.com. If you haven't used Teespring, we want to suggest it. I think it's something that you will get some value for in terms of being able to create something and not have to spend money up front. Okay, and now you go to Teespring. This is my dashboard, so of course they try to show you other stuff. It's like, all right, great. Give you some ideas. So what we're going to do is just start designing. We go into and start designing what we have an idea for. Okay, so it's like, okay, what kind of stuff do you want? Now you see what's happening here. You get a chance to put stuff on jogging pants. You could just do this for yourself. I've actually created things and bought them right from here because guess what? I couldn't find this at the store. And this is something that I totally recommend. You might have a saying, you might have something that you dig and you say, wait a minute, you know what? I can't find this anywhere. So you go over to Teespring, you get it created, put it on your hoodie, put it on your mask, right? Put it on your phone. I think one of the things I have for my phone is I have the back of my business on my phone, right? Our Bridge Business Institute, where business creation is the classroom. That's our deal, right? And then John, I know John has Ineffable Socks, or he has the Ineffable brand on masks, right? So anyway, let's take a look at this. So now you pick one of these things that you get into. You say, okay, what I want it to be a digital product? Do I want it to be apparel? So let's go ahead and click on apparel and let's go to one of these here. So now you see what happens. They'll tell you, here's what's going to be the base price. If you put it on this t-shirt, the base price is $10.50. Now, that's what it's going to cost you. But if you might look at that and go, well, shoot, that's not too bad, right? That's why you can create for yourself. And I recommend that. Imagine this, guys. If you had this t-shirt on, you go to the gym. I mean, when the gyms can open back up, right? You go to the gym and you've got your saying on there. Now, this is stuff that I recommend to the entrepreneurs all the time. But in this, you see, this is the entre hustle. This is what we're talking about, straight up entre hustle. You got to be thinking all the time. Now you're going to have a space, a tool to go to present your stuff. So now think about this. Okay, you can decide, right? You can say, okay, I want this kind of shirt or comfort tee. That's going to be $13.17. If you know your audience enough and you believe they'll spend a little higher money. But let's just start off with the basic t-shirt here. Okay, let's go ahead and start designing that. And then now look at this. It shows you right there. All right, get out of here, Katie. I don't know what you're talking about. Clear. Okay, so look at this. You now then can add your image. So or get this. You can go on here and put your text on right there. Right, John, you probably didn't know that, but you could have put that right on the. Sometimes you go and you see, this is the cool part, is that sometimes you can get stuff made for cheap, $10, $20, go to Fiverr or something like that, get it done. Or you can come on here and says, you know what? I want it to say and look a certain way. You go right in there and start adding text yourself. You can turn your text, all kinds of cool stuff. All right, so what we're going to do is add the image that John had, right? Let me go to my images real quick. Let me find, did I download it as an image yet? Yeah, let's see it here. Straight up Entre Hustler, T Final. Yeah, let's grab it. Now, look at this. It puts it on the shirt for you, right? Go ahead and click on it. You can, it tells you where it's going to size right. Like, watch this, guys. You go outside that box, it says, Don't do that. So you might say, well, I wanted a little higher, or I want it to be lower if you're really tall or something. Who knows, right? So let's go ahead and put it up here. And you see how that is going to sit on the shirt. So it's going to be just a little bit underneath here, underneath your, I think your shoulder blades here, right? So you then say, okay, cool. I think I like it right here. Look at this. Let's preview it then. All right, that's how it's going to look. Straight up Entre Hustler. And then it says, okay, are you satisfied with that? Yep, I'm satisfied with that. And look at this. Watch this. Now you set the price. Look at this. Price for product fulfilled from the US, right? You can change this. If you say, you know what, I think John and I really like to keep our stuff very affordable for our community, very affordable. So typically, because we know there's going to be some shipping costs involved in that, and we want people to put these shirts on. So let's go ahead and say something like $20. That sound all right, John? 20 bucks. So if we sell a ton of these, 20 bucks, we get a $9.43 profit. John and I split that. And look what it says here. Most creators price this product at 25 bucks. Now we can use that in some of our ad copies when they say, hey, look, these t-shirts are typically about 25 to 26 bucks. But what we want to do is come in at $20. That's 2 tens. Right? I string together 2 tens. I love that. And it doesn't break the other bills. You see what's happening here? Even though you'll probably be buying it with your credit card. There's something, mentally that you say, oh, that's okay. And John and I say, hey, look, a $10 profit, that's almost 50%. John says, hey, 25%. But I'm saying, no, let's try to get up to the 40, 45, something like that, right? So now look at this. We then get a chance to go ahead and continue. It'll already price it for, the European and the euro, right? Selling price includes VAT. So we go ahead and say continue. And then we say, all right, great. I like that. What else can we put it on? This is what it's showing you here, everybody. And why we're talking about and showing you this part of it is that we wanted to show you on that process, that next step. And then when we get into our actual topic today, when we're talking about, are you in the right business for your personality, for your family, for your finance, for your well-being, for your temperament, for your work ethic, then you'll see that maybe in creating something like this, you might be in that space. Your mental energy, you might like doing something one time, creating it, and then now going out and getting your entre hustle on and selling it forever. That's the key. So we say, well, let's take something as classic as a t-shirt, something that we wear all the time, right? And see if we can do something there. And you may say, well, I got a whole bunch of ideas. Okay. You got a whole bunch of sayings. You hear something, get inspired by them. You then come over here to Teespring, right? And put it on a tee, put it on a shirt, put it on a hoodie. Look at this. Put it on some socks. Are you kidding me? Uh-oh, I'm getting into John space now. But you see what's happening? Straight up entre hustler. Now that might look that great on here. Somebody might have to look at both feet in order to get the whole thing, right? But you could put it on some jogging pants. You might have to design it a little bit differently so that it actually shows up there. But you could, right? When I go to the gym, I'm wearing somebody else's something. Why not wear your own stuff? I think I heard Kanye say that. He says, why should I put on somebody else's stuff? I can go create my own. Right? Look at that. Straight up entre hustler. You got leggings, profit starting at $17. Look at that. You now have a decision to make. You may have and design something that goes down one leg and then goes down the other leg, then go to the gym with it, right? Maybe on the back of it, because somebody's going to be looking at you. If you're a young lady, you may have, they don't look at us, right? And then you may have put the details, right? www.righthere.com. Not just on this, but just on any kind of product that you want, all right? So take a look at this. Now we're showing you Teespring because we like the idea that it's a print-on-demand opportunity, right? And we haven't even become affiliates for them yet. But we probably after this show, we will go over there. All right, so let's go ahead and continue. So now you have a chance to title your design. That's what I write. I forgot the R. Straight up entre hustler. All right, it's already in there. because we already created some other products. So we tested these and we created another product. But what we kept getting back was that the entree, that people couldn't see the entree. So John, called up the person that designed it and says, hey, could you make this a little thicker? You see what's possible here? And then you get a chance to describe it. Now we're not going to do that right now, but you get a chance to say, put in some nice keywords that say, hey, straight up Anja Hustler. When you're getting your hustle on, you got to, do it a certain way, whatever you want to come up with, right? And then, so let's go ahead and decide on this. Now we could put a URL under it, all kind of cool stuff. We wanted to show you this part of it. Now look, how long did that take us? That took what, 2 or 3 minutes? Now, what if you had 60 of those things, 50, 40, 30, 10, all stuff that you came up with in your mind, and you says, well, I'm going to put this on a t-shirt. Could that change your finances? Absolutely it could, because now you've created something that you could put out into the world, and if somebody buys it, awesome. Let's say that you love sales, but you don't like other things. Now, okay, create something and go sell it. What if you say, I want to just give stuff away? I really want to, bless my community. They've been great to me. Okay, come over to Teespring, build it out, and then tell people, hey, listen, all you have to pay is shipping and handling. Something like that. Now you have the perfect giveaway, and you don't have a basement full of product that you paid up front for. Now, another good thing about Teespring is that, man, it's like I'm on a commercial for Teespring. They need to send me a check, man, John. What's going on here? I'm just talking them up, but
You need to send
also,
this. Yeah, you need to send this podcast to them when we're finished today.
yeah, Teespring, send us a check. One of the good things is also is that it integrates very well with your YouTube channel, right? I've been noticing, and this is what got me into this. I says, wait a minute, I'm noticing all these folks are selling things, on their YouTube channel. And if you've got some pretty good followers, then you now have an opportunity to put, hey, would you like some stuff toward that particular community? And we're probably gonna talk about this a little later, but I've been picking up some other tips on how to speak just to your community. And I got this from a guy who, this dude was a little older, and he started, selling t-shirts, and he just sold like millions of them. I was like, how did he do that? So I started doing a case study on this guy, and I'll talk more a little bit about that. Okay, so let's get off of this, and we're going to get into the show. But do you see what's happening here? When we start talking about, are you in the right business? We want to start thinking about the business for your personality. Now, you see, I got all excited. I'm, putting this stuff on the shirt, I'm putting it on the opportunity, creating. What if you're the creative type? You says, man, I love doing that, but I don't like doing everything else. Then just create. What does it cost you to create something like this? Put it on a store, right? Put it on a landing page. And they got a store here that gives you a little funky link and all that. But don't get me wrong, Teespring, it's a great link. But then you can drive people just using that link. Send it out. Hey guys, I created something for you. And what I'm doing is I'm giving these away if you buy this. And that's what John and I are going to be doing. We're going to be literally, if you buy a t-shirt, we will give you a book that was created for free, right? We created a book, and then we've got a planner / workbook, right? So we might just give that away. Why? Because guess what? These are all digital products. I love working in the digital space. John likes stuff. John, you can tell him you like stuff that you can put your hands on. It's like the sock company is like, hey, look, this is right here in my hand. You want one? John will fulfill and all that. Send them out, ship them out to you and everything. And I like to do things in a little different way. So let's go ahead and jump off of this and get into our show today. Everybody, if you're just jumping in, you missed what we talked about earlier, and that is, how you can start uncapping your earnings by creating something. And we use Teespring as the platform to then go and create ourselves a nice little t-shirt, right? Or a hoodie or a hat. I know so many people are selling t-shirts, but they're not selling the kind of stuff that could speak to your audience, that right? What can you put in front of your audience that they go, that's me? right? I'm doing a collaboration here with a young lady, and we went from ground zero to the uh, from kind of conception, and then now we're completing the idea, right? And she has a really big community, and then we're going to put the idea that we come up with in front of her community and get sales. She knows her community, right? So when in one of our other podcasts we talk about collaboration, this is the reason why you may be and have a strength in an area that you now connect with somebody else, and you're able to go, hey, wait a minute, I have this strength, you've got this strength, let's bring our strengths together and split the money.
Mm.
That becomes the deal. So John, I've been talking a little bit too much here. Let's get into, are you in the right business? And let's see if we can help our entrepreneurs with this question.
Absolutely. The right business is, you want to be in something that you're passionate about, that you have a gift in or a talent. You don't want to be in an industry or a business line where you're not competent. So if I wanted to be in the business coaching space, I might want to know the principles of business coaching and how to operate a company and those types of things. You have to have some credibility, and so we want to look at that because that's highly important. Now, what you do in business is up to you. I mean, you could do anything, but does it fit your personality? Does it fit the dynamics of the life that you want to live? Because there are going to be some positions that are there, or companies that you build that are going to be higher demand, or you're going to be the one doing everything, fulfilling
Yep,
everything, sole
absolutely.
proprietorship. Or is it a structure where you want to build it up and have processes and procedures, and a company where you have other people that are assigned different tasks that contribute to this team as well? A lot. And what I find is a lot of people are getting, they'll think, hey, you know what, I don't know anything, about building homes, so I can't start a construction company. It doesn't mean you can't start a construction company. It doesn't mean that you can't own the construction company. You better surround yourself with people that are experts
Yep.
in that field, though.
Yep. Like
And,
basketball team owners, they don't. A lot of them, didn't play professional ball, but guess what? They went and made some money somewhere else, and now they own one.
yep.
Right.
So, and you surround yourself with the general manager,
That's right.
coaches, and those types of things. But these owners, they have a passion for basketball at the
Mhm.
same time, because they have to make some really hard decisions. Hey, do I want to pay X amount of money for this player? And how do I best position myself for a championship? Those types of things. So
Yeah.
you have to learn about the business, and you have to have a passion for wanting to win in that business. So even though you may not be the expert,
That's right.
even
That's
though
right.
even though you can't shoot a free throw, but I know individuals that are very successful, that own companies that they are not uh, the experts, but they're good at picking teams, and they're good at surrounding themselves with experts. They still have a passion for whatever it is they're doing. So if my goal is, hey, I want to develop a company fast, and I want to hire a lot of people because this is what I have a passion in. I could start a tech company and maybe not know so much about tech, but understand corporate dynamics and how to build a culture,
That's
and
right.
how to build a team, and bringing the right people and placing them on the bus so they could help with the technical aspects of the business.
Yep. And that's so key. And that's like, again, that's about your personality. If you know you like to be surrounded with people or by people, then if that's your part of your personality, because people give you energy, then should you be building a business that you're all alone? And this is what we're talking about. Are you in the right business? Right now, when you first heard that, and you ever read any of Peter Drucker stuff, he talks about this a lot. And so we're just kind of doing it a different way. We're talking about this a little different way. We are talking about these categories, these 6 areas: your personality, your family, your finances, well-being, temperament, work ethic. We're talking about it from that perspective, not in are you in the right business out in the marketplace. So we're bringing it personal. The two business guys want to mastermind on are you in the right business. So as you listen to what John was saying, then you come up with the idea that, listen, you may not be the best, but you can go get the best, right? I think about the guy who started Calendly, right? And he started Calendly, and what he was able to do is go collect all of the people that put together the app, right? I use Calendly personally and I love it. But he went out and built a team,
Mhm.
found some folks that knew how to do this, knew how to do that. Now he knew enough about it to be able to go, yeah, no, don't bring me that garbage code or whatever, right? And then built this team, launched it, and millions of people now use Calendly, and he's making some serious change. Right. So, but as we get back and talk about your personality, pinging the business off of your personality is one of the key things. This is why I have, multiple podcasts, right? Is because I come alive when I talk and when I'm able to share with people, right? I think about, Ryan Seacrest, he's got like 4 or 5 shows, but, the majority of them are things where he's talking, where he's in front of the camera, because that's what is his deal. LeBron James is a basketball player, but he takes care of his body to the tune of $1.5 million a year. Why? He says, and I'm paraphrasing this quote, because that's keeping the main thing, right?
Mhm.
That is the thing that makes all this other stuff happen. So why wouldn't I take care of it? It
Mhm.
inspired me, quite frankly, to start going out and spending $1,200 a year on my body. Not 1.5 million, but just little things, going out and doing nutritional IVs, little things like that that says, hey, can I keep the engine running as best as possible? Going out and becoming reasonably plant-based, stuff like that, because I was inspired by what I saw LeBron James doing, right? Another one, Russell Wilson, he spends $1 million, but that's because they want to have longevity. And we're not even going to talk about Tom Brady. He actually puts in millions of dollars and then created a company around it. I think he calls it T3 or something like that.
Mhm.
But you see what's happening here now. If you think about this, these might be things that is right for their personality. Once they're able to step away from that profession, now they're saying, okay, because I built some stuff, I used my personality, I leveraged it, and I leveraged it in a way that worked better for me. Now what I'm able to do is then now take care of and stay and be with my family, right?
Mhm.
That becomes the next thing we want to talk about. Is the business you're in good for your family?
Mhm. Mhm.
Right? John, think about this for a minute. I was watching the show, and I'm screaming at the TV, because I thought that the couple were being unreasonable with one another. And in this particular case, and of course that's why the writers wrote it that way, right? To get you fired up. I think the man in the home was always he was gone. He was a lawyer. He was out there making some money, and she was like, "Well, you're never home, and this is why I cheated on you." Blah blah blah. And he was like, "Really, because I was gone all the time." Well, not a good excuse. Not a good excuse at all. But the point is the profession he was in may have not been good for his new family. It's not like he was a 30-year guy in the marriage, and he knew his person, knew his wife well enough to know that she will let him go work. They were brand new, and he was gone all the
Mhm.
time, right? He was working all the time because he was trying to build his business. But the question becomes, did you put in too much time and you cracked the very thing that you say you wanted? John, what do you think about that? You actually have probably a personal story that talks about, is this right for your family, the business that
Yeah,
you're in?
and this is a very tough thing. Um, King Solomon talks about there's a season for everything, and it was made into a popular song, I believe in the 70s, to everything, turn, turn, turn. Um, but but he talks about there's seasons to our lives, and just because it's not right at one season doesn't mean that it's not something that you'll be able to do at other seasons of your life.
I like that. That's
You know,
good.
2018, beginning 2018, I left a company that I grew, I owned, um, and I left the company. The year prior, I lost track after about 27 times on an airplane,
Mm.
and loved what I did, but I was gone a lot, not just airplanes, but in a vehicle. I have young kids and wife, and it just wasn't the right time to be all over the world, doing different types of projects. I had to look at, well, for a time period, my family needs me to help out at the home, whether that's with school, helping with the kids or whatnot. So you have to look at those types of things, and everybody's life is a little different. Um, but I think it's conversation that you need to have with your significant other, is how will this affect. My wife is upstairs right now, and she's preparing 30 pies that she has due today, that she sold, and we have conversations about those types of things. That's her hobby, that's her side business. um, you know
She's a straight up
can't,
entre hustler too, huh?
she is, and we've had this conversation. She had a few weeks back, she delivered 90 pies, and
90 pies. Wow.
90 pies, and you have to understand, do you have the support that you need to be successful? Because I could have been like, yeah, she could have said to me, hey, in this morning, I said 3 minutes. I was helping with labels. I was printing out labels for her pies. But I could go sit on the couch and not help and just watch and say, hey, you're spending too much time doing that. You're not
Right.
giving. Or I could look at it as an opportunity. Hey, I can go in there and I can help with something. I could help with the filling, or I can print labels. But it's got to be something that everybody in your family is invested in.
Yeah. Is it the right business for your family? When I'm teaching the entrepreneurs, this is one of the things that, at the end when they do their pitches and stuff like that, one of the things that I do is I think, when we come up and have the family there when they're at pitch night, I thank them for loaning us their entrepreneur.
Hmm.
No, I really do. I says thank you for loaning your entrepreneur to us for these amount of weeks, because we know that while they are creating their business, that's what is on their mind. Maybe they miss, I don't know if they missed cooking a meal or whatever, but we have this other part where we talk about the time in the day that you have, the time in the day, right? We literally put a 24-hour clock in front of them and say, okay, now show us the time. And then they put down everything on the clock and they say, okay, I work for this. If I'm working, if they're working a 9 to 5, 8 hours, 9 hours, whatever, I do this, I watch TV, whatever, right? I tell you, I can't tell you how many times where we've seen people say, I 27 hours. It's like, well, there's only 24, right, in a day. Well, mine shows 27. So then we ask, when do you have time for the business?
Mm.
Right? So we then say, all right, this is something that you got to look at. We can't peel off these things for you. We can't peel off certain times because we don't know the value that they have for you in your family, right? But that's again, are you in the right business for your family? Hard
Absolutely.
question,
Yeah.
but it's something that you have to answer. We talked about personality. Now we're talking about family. Now let's get into, is it the right business for your finances? This is a tough one, man, right? Because I remember when I was just starting out, and I gave my job back to the economy. I says, here, you can have this 9 to 5, right? And I then had, that was going in, I was going into entrepreneurship full time to figure some things out, right? But I could tell you, one of the things that I forced myself to do was to, while I was at the 9 to 5, save up enough money that I can give myself a runway. And I had actually earmarked 2 years. I figured it would take me about 2 years to learn different things in the digital space. It actually took longer.
Mhm.
Did I have enough financial runway? Right. And this is when you're talking about, are you starting the right business for your finances? You got to look around. All right. Now, you can be like me and go, okay, but I'm gonna become somewhat of a minimalist. I bought a really small house, made sure it was paid for, made sure I bought my wife a car, that was paid for. So we didn't have my cars paid for, things like that, right? This is strategy because now you may be going into an area that's going to affect your family's finances. Right now, could we, if I had stayed at the job, could have, been living in a bigger house in a, different neighborhood, of course, driving, bigger cars, of course. But what I wanted to do was create a situation where I was creating wealth, right? So it's like what I'm creating, whether it's, what we're John and I are doing with the t-shirts, or the writing of the books, creating e-courses. So I wanted to be in that field because that I thought would be the thing, and still do think, that would build me wealth. You create something one time, a book, let's say, and it can create for you forever. Why? Because somebody could buy that book. How many times have you read, even if you went to, college or whatever, you're reading some book from 1970? You're like, wait a
Mhm.
minute, this information's old. Yeah, but there's principles in there that you can use. Imagine if somebody picked up your book, and because you wrote it in a way that is, evergreen, is timeless, is like, hey, look, here's what I wrote back then based on the information I had, but it's still applicable today. You see what I mean? So I wanted to go into that field, learning entrepreneurship, being able to create what I thought would be wealth opportunities versus just income opportunities. So you have to have yourself a runway. But when you decide on that, you got to look at your finances and make some decisions. What can I minimalize? What can I peel off? Will my spouse accept that? Right? Come on now. We know this. Your spouse may have gotten used to a certain lifestyle. This is a key. You go say, I'm going to become an entrepreneur. We're not going to have any money for 2 years. That might not play well. That's a consideration, right? Looking at your finances and asking these tough questions of them.
And the thing about
Can
it
I do
is,
this?
there's so many things that affect a business that you can't say with certainty, hey, this is only going to last. This is only going to be a season of 2 years that we're going to go through this.
Yeah, it's
And
been longer
I
for
think
me.
I said it, and Randy and I both, we sit across from a lot of people daily, and a lot of people believe that, hey, once I start my business, I'm immediately going to have positive cash flow. I'm immediately going to be a success. And
Everybody's going to
that,
want it.
yep, that's just that is an anomaly. So if you do, I mean, I give you, much props, and you were at the market at the right time, and there could have been a number of factors, but
Right.
what I'm saying is congratulations. You are the exception to the rule.
That's
And
the
there's
key.
nothing wrong with those other businesses that it takes longer. Business ownership is hard. If we think that we're going to go into this because we want to limit hours working or different things, I want to have time for this and time for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I want to have
Well,
flexibility in my life. Okay.
you're going to realize really quickly that you're going to be you're working a lot more. Some would say all the time, especially in the beginning while you are launching a
Mm-hmm.
business.
When you're going out there, having to fight against the competition, when you're going out there having to convince companies to, hold your product, all that stuff, that takes time, that takes attention, and it takes a whole lot of stuff. Now, John and I have talked a lot about this in the podcast. This is episode 45. So we've talked a lot about building that thing out, especially in the first 30 episodes. But now you have to think about this, right? And we hate to say this to you this way. You have to, because as an entrepreneur, if you're listening to this, you kind of like, you kind of bristle at that, right? It's like, I don't have to do anything. Well, you don't. But consider this. Let me use that word instead of you have to. Consider this. Consider whether or not you're in the right business for your finances. Now, you dig into that, and say, hey, wait a minute, what do I need to do? Because I'll never forget when I read the book called, oh shoot, what was the name of it? Entrepreneur Idiot's Disease. Yeah, Entrepreneur Idiot Disease, or Entrepreneur's Idiot's Disease, EID. And in there, the guy talked about this. He says, multiply everything you're thinking about by 3. In other words, it's going to take this amount of money times 3. It's going to take this amount of time times 3. Because that's typically what ends up happening, is that you underestimate the amount of time it's going to take, and you I'm messing it up, but you don't have the right timing on your stuff, right? You're underestimating that it's going to take this amount of money, right? And you say, well, I only think it's going to take a certain amount of time, and you're way off. That's something that you have to look at, because that can affect your family and your finances. Now, you see what's happening here. You got, am I in the right business for my personality? Am I in the right business for my family? Am I in the right business for my finances? Everybody, if you're just joining us at the Two Business Guys Mastermind, this podcast, what we talk about is, hey, we're talking about these ways that we can help you create a nice business for yourself, right? And in this episode, we happen to be talking about, are you in the right business for multiple things, for your personality, family, finances, well-being, temperament, and work ethic? And we're just walking them down. What about well-being, John? Hey, I like to, relax and rest, right? But I want to start a business that is just the opposite. Is that wise?
Well, I think that you have to start, and you have to assess yourself and your situation thoroughly. This goes back to the 24 hours. All of us are allotted the same amount of time, but we have to figure out, all of us differently, what time do I give to this and what time do I give to that. We all have different obligations within our lives. It may be something that, hey, you know what, I can no longer serve on that board, at least for the next 2 or 3 years, while I'm doing this, while I'm
Mm-hmm.
ramping up this business. The same thing's true when you're looking at your finances too. Um, will this generate, have I done my research to a point to see what others are making who are doing this, that are successful in this business? Is this going to give me the lifestyle that I need and want? Um,
Absolutely.
because if you're doing something and you're making, seriously, if you're making a couple $100 a week, but it takes you a couple $1,000 a week to maintain a lifestyle, you're going to be stressed up. All of these things are going to affect your well-being.
Absolutely. You're going to be
Um,
like, I can't do this.
Now, for your well-being specifically, after you've determined those things, that you have the time, that you're in the right space, that you'll be able to have the resources at a certain point once you start making money.
Yep.
um, you have to look at, rest is one of those things, that if we're not careful, if we're not taking advantage of it. I'm not saying excessive rest, laziness, but what I'm saying is, if you aren't capturing, and you've talked about unplugging a lot, like, hey, I'm just going to unplug, I'm not even going to have any devices around me, and just a pad of paper and a pen and stepping away. I think that's necessary for all of us,
Yep.
just for
Talking about the dopamine detox.
our sanity portion. But then there's another part of the well-being too, that I want to touch on, that a lot of entrepreneurs do not take advantage of, and that is the continuous education part. Things change in the entrepreneur space all the time. There are new things that come out. um, we need to be learning constantly. We
Constantly.
have to constantly, and we need mentors as well. You we highly recommend that you have a mentor in your life as well, because it is a lonely island to be an entrepreneur,
Yep.
and to think that you can't share any of this information and get advice from anyone else. We need someone to be
Mentors are
able that
big.
that understand us, that understands entrepreneurship, that we can relay and get good sound advice from.
Right.
But I think
And those
those are
mentors don't have to be older either, do they?
no,
Right.
no, absolutely not.
I've got younger mentors because I'm watching some stuff, and that's why I do a lot of collaborations. Right.
Absolutely, we can learn just as much. I mean, especially when we're looking at stuff in the tech space and whatnot. There's a lot of things that the younger generations could teach us, just because they grew up with some of these things that maybe
Yeah.
our generation. I kind of posted a funny thing on social media last night. When I was a kid, I got excited when I got my not flat screen, excuse me, black and white 13-inch television. And that was exciting to me. I remember, I
Hmm.
was like 10 years old and getting this black and white television, 13-inch. And now kids, and it's unbelievable, we would have never imagined this, they're getting laptops and drones and hoverboards and all of these crazy things that.
Right.
But the thing is, our kids are being prepared to enter into a realm that is harder for our generation to access, because we didn't grow up
Yeah.
immersed
It's not
into that.
native
Yeah,
to us.
right,
Right.
right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so interesting that you say that, right? Because when you were thinking about is this the right business for your well-being? If it's a stressor, it's causing constant stressor, then you might not be in the right business. You shouldn't be trying to start a certain business. And this leads me to kind of a heartbreaking story of a friend of mine who ended up getting cancer. Right. He got, and it was really bad. And eventually, the place that he was working at, eventually they let him go. Now, it was tough to watch that happen, but it's one of those things where you kind of go, that's unfair and all that kind of stuff. And one of the things that I was thinking about the most, and when I would call him and talk to him, I would always send him some kind of link to some research on the kind of cancer that he had, and they're just being as encouraging as possible, and then also talking about what can I help with in terms of helping him create some kind of products and stuff like that. He could even be talking about that thing he's going through. Now, this is what I do when I'm talking about helping people in the monetize your life method, right? That's the company that I started under our bridge, is about how can we take things that are happening in your life and show you ways to create from them, right? We don't have to run from pain anymore. We don't have to run from the things that have occurred in our life. We can now create things and then go find a community of folks that are about that or felt that, experienced that, and then go and say, I got something for you, right? But that's getting the entre hustle on, right? That's becoming an entre hustler. That's what this is about, is we now have the opportunity to create from our life, right? And then as a result of whatever is happening in our well-being space, mental well-being, physical well-being, then we still have a chance to earn some money, right? And this is why, again, I'm collaborating with a young lady right now who had to stop working out there and bring her stuff home for a specific reason. I don't want to get into her business here. It's not my place to do that. But, and then she built up a huge community as a result of that. Couldn't go out there and work because of specific things, brought it back in, and now works from home and then now created a business around that. And I'm helping her do some things, and we're doing some collaborations, right? This is what we're talking about. Your mental well-being, your physical well-being, right? A variety of things could happen to you. You know, you didn't eat well, and guess what? You got diabetes now. You didn't eat well, you got high blood pressure now. Whatever it is, right? And no judgment. But now, if you're creating the kind of businesses that speak to your well-being, or because of your well-being, you still have the capability of earning. That's what we're talking about. You have to decide that. Why I wanted to go into the digital space was simple. I knew that, and I've worked a lot of jobs, whether it is, in the corporate space, or driving a high-low, or driving a pizza car, right? I was always thinking about, how can I leverage this to create something? That could I create? I remember when I went into the real estate and started buying up properties and stuff like that, fixing them, selling them. I was flipping properties before they, had flipped this house. But I did it with the idea that I wanted to create my own retirement. That was it. That's all I said. So I had numbers that said, if I buy this many houses and I am getting this amount a month, then I've literally created $4, $5, $6,000 a month income for myself that I can retire on anytime I want it. That was the purpose of that. Now, in the digital space, which I like to call digital real estate, and I say the same things. Can I create multiple websites? Can I write enough books? Can I that are peeling off a couple of bucks a month? Right now, the math on that is fantastic. And this is what we want to show you guys, why I, have so many, podcasts and all this stuff, right? Why I do so much is, if you had, let's say you had 52 different digital products out there, right? I get in trouble when I start doing this kind of math. My son is a math genius, and I'll put something out and he'll call me up and says the math is wrong. Right? I was like, okay, sorry, son. But this is 52 different digital products. Let's just say digital products, or products in general. And they're earning you $100. So 52, and I say 52 because I like to say, can you create one a week? And they're earning you, let's say, $200. So you got 52. Hold on a second here. You got 52 different things out there making you, let's say they're making you $200 a month, right? So a month, that's $10,400 a month, right? Now that's 52 different things out there. Can a job do that for you? No, because they're going to tell you, John said it at this onset, they're going to cap your earnings. They're going to say, hey, we're going to pay you 50, 60, 70, 80, $100,000, unless you're in maybe the sales space. So imagine you got 52 different things out there earning you $200. How you do that is the process, right? And then now you say, well, wait a minute, that's $10,400 a month from those 52, but there's 12 months in a year. So 10,400 times 12. All right, so now let's do some math on that. Times 12 months equals $124,800. Now, you can just look at that and say, okay, what if I had more products? And now, because we're in the digital space, imagine if you now, got some kind of illness, some kind of sickness, but yet you got these products out there. You got your Entre hustle on, and you went out there, got these products rolling for you. You now can weather the storm that you may be facing yourself, that you may be facing. This is what this is why we're encouraging and having this conversation and asking the big question: are you in the right business for your personality, for your family, for your finances, and in this case, for your well-being? When you know that, if you can anticipate that maybe there's going to be some problems coming up, right? I remember when I said to my wife, I says, listen, I'm creating the retirement for you right now. I'm creating insurance for you right now. While I'm in here writing a book, I'm not just writing a book. I'm creating insurance for you, because you could take this book and you can earn from it forever, kind of a thing, right? Can it get turned into a movie? I don't know. Who knows? We've seen it happen before. Books that don't make a lot of money, right? But yet somebody, decides, hey, I like the content. I can make a movie out of this. They write a script. Next thing you know, Your family's being fed on something you did years ago. You're thinking about this, at least I hope this is what we want you to be doing here right now, is thinking about this. You get sick, something happens, and you create these things because you got your entre hustle on. And now you have the chance to earn and feed your family in a whole different way. Does that make sense a little bit? I mean, this is why I did what I did in terms of leaving the 9 to 5, giving it back to the economy so that I can create a different kind of wealth structure for myself. It might not be for everybody. That's why we're saying find out what your personality is like. See
And
what your family will take. Go ahead, John.
the neat thing too is if you love your 9 to 5, if you're a teacher or a librarian and you're like, hey, this breathes life into me, this is part of who I am, it doesn't mean that you can't do something else
That's
on the
right.
side. That that's something that I think a lot of people take for granted as well. Hey, you know what? I'm happy. I love my. Well, you can be happy and love your job and stay with your job and still do some of these things
That's right.
to help your future, to make it so that when it does come time for you to retire or
Yeah. I like to
something
say
where you,
protect your future.
yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
serious. Protect it.
we know we know long time care is really expensive, and a lot of people's not just income but savings gets drained when
Yes, sir.
some type of illness or some type, you get admitted to some type of facility. A lot of times they don't, they're like, hey, you can't have a certain amount of income, so, or
Yep.
they
You
take
can't.
it
Yep.
over.
Yep. I've seen it, man. When my mother, she had to be in long-term care before she passed away. And, in taking care of her, I had to leave the job. I had to walk off the job and say, hey, listen, I got to take care of a more important thing,
Yeah.
right? And that was putting, again, your family first. But because I had built a little piece of real estate, right? I was, think I never knew that my mom would have to have that kind of care, but she did. Then I says, the business that I built because I was working a job that paid pretty decent, then allowed me to take that time off, take
Mhm.
care of my loved one, right? And then she had, very fortunately, had foresight enough to have certain insurances and all of that stuff already taken care of, right? Now, that's a unique situation, not everybody's. That's why we're saying, are you in the right business for these things? And start thinking. And this is why we're encouraging to get your entre hustle on. You may not think of yourself as an entrepreneur, but I'm telling you, and this is, I wrote this on the board the other day. I says, we're all entrepreneurs now, but you might not know it. We're all entrepreneurs now.
And you think about that 150 years ago, most everybody was an entrepreneur. They were rural farmers, they were farriers, changing the shoes of horses and whatnot, bakers. You had all types of, you had a merchants, but most people were entrepreneurs. That was just the way of life.
Uh-huh.
This whole industrialization, where people go to a job and work 9-10 hours a day, this is relatively new to humankind. This you figure this is only about 150 years old.
That's
um,
interesting to me. If you could, when you dig into that, that's so interesting what you said, John. Um, that this is, we used to get out there and make it happen. And now we have, when we're talking certain entrepreneurs, we now almost have to, before the pandemic, right? Now, like I said, that's why I say we're all entrepreneurs now. But prior to that, I had a podcast called the Earn Every Dime Online Show, right? And that's, I still have it. That's what I talked about all the time, but it was like pulling teeth, and now it's not. It's like now people go, yep, what do you got? Because I think that might be able to help me. Or what are you talking about today? And I go out and I find things that would help people in the entrepreneurship space, because I believe we're all entrepreneurs now. But to
mhm.
your point, John, It seems to me that we have forgotten. And I want us to be reminded when we're doing a show like this. Guys, if you're just jumping in on the show and we got maybe, I don't know, a couple 20 minutes or so left, we're talking about, are you in the right business for your personality, for your family, for your finances, your well-being, your temperament, your work ethic? Right now we are on, are you in the right business for your temperament? Because what we want to do here at our show, right? The Two Business Guys Mastermind is come together, mastermind on things. Earlier we literally showed taking a t-shirt design and putting it on, using a service, a platform, putting it out there without having to spend virtually any money. I think maybe $30 to go out there and test to see if we can get some people to buy it. All right. If we get 5 people that'll raise their hand and say, yep, I'll take that. We're giving stuff away. We're doing different things. Now, get this. We're talking about from conception to completion to income. And we want to be able to show you how to do that kind of stuff, right? But right now, we got to ask these questions. And this one that's up now is, are you in the right business for your temperament? Are you a temperamental person? All right. I had a boss once, man, and this dude was a temperamental something, hollering all the times. I got friends that are just, they're temperamental, right? But you got to know your temperament may be one that you're up one day, down the next. Nothing wrong with that. No judgment. So are you in the right business that'll feed the ups and not the downs?
Yep.
And entrepreneurship might not be for you if your temperament is one that if you get sales, you feel great. If you're not getting sales, you think it's you.
Yep.
I suck.
Absolutely.
I am terrible.
Or if you're just not willing to go out and pitch your product because that's just not your personality. I think we've run into a
That's a
lot of
big one.
individuals. We run into a lot of individuals where they have a great idea and a great product, but
They
they will
won't sell
not.
it.
They won't sell it. They're, they don't want to face rejection. They don't want
Right.
somebody saying no because that's a personal thing. It doesn't it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't enter into that business, but you better have somebody that can pick up that slack because that's an important slack that needs to be picked up.
Right. Right. And
Um,
that's a good thing to know, isn't it? Your personality, your temperament. I don't have this. Then go find somebody that does. We talked about this in one. I think it might have been our last podcast. We talked about how Steve Jobs had Wozniak, right? And because Wozniak had Steve Jobs, because he would have ended up building a whole bunch of brilliant stuff that nobody would have knew about. It took the Steve Jobs personality to push it into the world, right? I even think about Tyler Perry, who runs his organization while he's working, right? Elon Musk, who runs the organization while he's engineering, right? He found a personality that could do the stuff that he can't. That becomes key. You think of Henry Ford.
mhm.
I think he had only a certain amount of education. He
He
says,
was an
"Oh, I got somebody for
he was
that."
illiterate. Yeah, he was illiterate, and he actually taught himself. I think when he was in his 40s, how to read and write, but he was illiterate before then.
Think about that. Built up a company,
Hmm.
not being able to read and write, right? And we're not, this is our opinion. We haven't fact checked this or anything like this, and it's still around, right? It's still. I just saw a commercial for them yesterday. And first of all, I couldn't believe I thought I had kind of stuff that I didn't get commercials. I was on Netflix or somewhere. I'm like, wow, like why am I getting a commercial? I wasn't on Netflix, but anyway, I was on some show channel that slipped a commercial in on me. But the point is, they said, hey, look, our company, even though rough and tumble, been around, up and down, but we're still here. That's in
So
essence, we're
Henry Ford,
Ford tough.
there's an interesting story, and I can't remember the exact question, but Henry Ford was in one of those Senate hearings, where they bring people in and they question them, and he was asked a question by one of the senators, and Henry Ford didn't know the answer, and the senators, you run this, multi whatever it was, $1 million company, and you don't know the answer to that. I don't need to know the answer to that. I have people that can find the answer for me.
That's right.
So,
That was
and
the first leverager. He was the first entre hustler.
mm-hmm.
It's about leverage. When we think about a business, right? And this is John, we struggle with this sometimes, I think. And then I think we also realize this is that it's really not about you. The moment the business is about you is the moment you really take it out of the sphere of what it could possibly be. You want it to be about others, right? I think about some of this is interesting, right? And take the principles here, even though it's in a whole different industries. I think about when I'm watching a comedy show, and I think about what makes this thing work. What made Seinfeld work? What made Martin work? Is because other people were funny around him,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you think of Seinfeld, and you go, wow, what is this show about? Or Friends, whatever it is, right? You look at those examples and you say, everybody was funny at their own times. And I was watching this one that was so funny, man, got me cracked up. And it's called Shit Creek, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's spelled really, really weird, but and they won, like, I don't know, all the Emmys just recently. And seven people on the show, all the characters got Emmys. It was crazy. And I says, well, what is this show? So I went over there, man, and this show is freaking hilarious. But it's hilarious not because it's focused on one person.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because the characters in there at their particular time are hilarious. It's like they spread the funny, right? And I'm just like, wow, that means the business isn't always about you. The shows, which is in essence a business, right, isn't always about you. All right. And I think it's Shit Creek, like SCHITT or something like that. And it's a town, right? The whole premise is that this guy lost all of his money. He was a big, his business partner stole all of his money, and he had hundreds and hundreds of video stores, blah blah blah. Lost all of his money, and the only thing that the government let him keep was this town. So they had to move to the town into, they were super rich. So it's just so funny, man, how they play off of that dynamic, right? And I literally watched, like, every day. I would watch it, turn it on. When my wife and I got together, we would turn on Shit Creek, right, and then watch it. And now we're on season 6, right? But it's like I'm watching this and I'm going, these guys they're just funny. And as I think of a business, right, you got the collaboration of people, right? And this speaks to your temperament. What is your temperament? Knowing that, and then get people around you that can bolster you.
Yep.
Right?
And I
That can
think,
be what you're not.
and that's one of the things to be a great entrepreneur is to recognize that you have inherent flaws.
Yeah.
That there are things inherently that you're not gifted at. And so what you do is you have to find ways to complement those.
Yeah.
And I think great entree leaders, entrepreneurs, entree hustlers who do this, I think that's when you see businesses start to flourish, when you
That's right.
bring the right group and there's chemistry there.
Yeah. And that is really, I think, the task of business, right? I'll never forget when Peter Drucker talked about this. I read one of his books, and he says the role of business is to find a customer. And I was like, wait, what? Yep. And that's so opposite, right? If you think about it, it says, well, your role as a business is to go find customers and then market to them, sell to them, excite them, obviously help their lives and obviously solve problems. But if you really dig into what he's saying, is that that's how you do it. And that reminded me of, right now we're in, the throes of the pandemic and all that kind of stuff, depending on where you're hearing this. And it reminded me when I started thinking about the drug companies and how they started. Right? I started reading about the people that are now coming out with the vaccines and stuff like that, and how they had one lady I says, how is it possible that one person, this is the key. How is it possible that one person starts something and then all of a suddenly you're starting to see that these things are coming out at about the same time, right? Now, and I started digging into it. They were talking about the lady who's is, I think she's with Pfizer and another company right now. And they were the one that released it first. But she had been with a university. And she was building in a university. She was building something in a whole different arena, not necessarily in the, for the vaccine, but she felt that if she can get this, I'm gonna get a little technical here, but she can get the RNA to slip past the defenses of your immunity, then you can bring in something that solves a problem before your immune system, catches it before it can get to the problem, in essence. So she found a way, right? But she had been working with the university, and the university literally sold the patent. Because guess what? They're saying, hey, we pay you, you have the lab here, so we own this to whatever degree they owned it. That's a lesson for you, right? Don't sell all your intellectual property. Anyway, we'll go into that on another show. But this becomes the deal, right? If she had the kind of temperament that would have just been crushed by that, we would probably not have the vaccine today. But she didn't. She rolled out, went to another company, just rebuilt it in a whole different way, couldn't use certain patents, right? Rebuilt it a certain way, and then they became the one to be first to market. And I hope I'm getting this right, in terms of they were first to market. And it was, I think the big company, Pfizer, had to grab this other little company, kind of say, what do you got there? And then boom, we've got infrastructure. We got all this other stuff that you can now leverage to bring this to market. So they came out and brought it to market. So they did a story on it. She told her how tough it was, how people didn't want to take her serious, how they didn't believe that her stuff could work, but they kept publishing. And now you start seeing they publish stuff, right? Because you want to obviously be recognized and get it out there first. Then other people build on that. And that's how all of a sudden you have all of these companies that can come out with the vaccine, right? Because they had been publishing, and now they just had to take a different look at it. Then they had to go and find out how they did it. So they modeled it. And she mentioned, I think in this article, that all of this stuff is basically the work of others' work, the work of others' work, right? You're building on or you're standing on the shoulder of giants, if you will. So if you think about this, if her temperament again would have been one that just folded up when that big reversal happened, right? And I think the university wanted to fire her because, blah, blah, blah. I'm sure she made a stink out of some things, right? If she had just folded, we'd have never heard about it. Think about your business. If you fold the business because you got a rejection, right? The first time, second time, third time, fourth time, fifth time. And quite frankly, we don't like rejection. I don't know anybody that says, oh man, give me a huge dose of rejection. You find that person, well, guess what? They become probably star salespeople, right? I see people out there with the signs. I'm kind of going off a little bit here, but I see people out there with the signs saying, hey, I'm out of work, need some money. I said, they would be the best salespeople because they got to take the look and the stares, right? They've learned to, deal with rejection every car, right? I said, that person could just go out and do sales. They would be awesome. Door to door. They wouldn't worry about it. They're standing out there asking for money for 8 hours a day, right? Getting rejected when everybody looks the other way or don't don't look in that direction. All right, give them stares or get out of the car and say, get a job. Right, they're going, hey, I got a job. I'm on a corner asking for money. That's my job, right? But think about this temperament, your temperament. Now look at what you do. Ask yourself the hard questions and then say, am I in the right business for it? Or how can I insulate myself with the people that I put around me? That's the big thing that you got to think about, right? And again, I apologize for saying you got to think about this, but consider this. Now, John, what about work ethic?
Oh man,
I know some lazy entrepreneurs.
There are, and
I'm one sometimes. I don't want to work. I don't want to do this.
I had a business partner once, and he owned an $80+ million company, and he
That's a lot
told
of
me,
money.
yeah, he told me once, we're on a private jet, and he told me once, he's like, I work about 3 hours a week. And
That was before Timothy Ferriss's the 4 hour
yeah,
work week.
yeah. And I thought, 3 hours
How
a
was that
week,
possible?
how is that possible?
Yeah.
Well, he had built a system,
Mm.
and he had surrounded himself with the right people, so it was possible. It wasn't possible his entire life.
Yeah, because we don't see what they did to get to the build.
And I think that's what we're missing is, there's a time where you're gonna have to put in the hours, you're gonna have to hustle, you're gonna have to work your tail off. You're gonna be tired because you're doing multiple things. You're trying to innovate, and I think that's when we are our best as entrepreneurs. And sometimes when we start becoming comfortable
Uh,
is when we become less innovative.
yep.
Um, so yes, if you want to be a successful entrepreneur, at least in the beginnings, you're going to have to work your tail off. You better believe that Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, Mark Zuckerberg, any of those guys, any person who Madam C.J. Walker, worked
Mhm.
their tails off.
Oprah, she worked hard,
Oh my goodness, yes.
right?
Look at
Tyler
how
Perry
many.
worked hard.
Yeah, look at how many things Tyler Perry has going
Will
on, and
Smith,
Oprah has. Yep.
hard.
And look at all the different things that they do. I mean, it's not just about television shows, but it's about networks and owning periodicals and different things like that. It's so much bigger than one show.
Yep. Yep.
Whether that's Meet the Browns or the Oprah Winfrey talk show that used to be on, is so much bigger than that. And
Imagine
indiv-
that, John. Just to your point, imagine that every single day in front of folks. Think about the temperament you have to have, right? And I think one of the reasons, I think I read this somewhere, that she left the show is because she got tired of the grind.
Mhm.
And that's that point where you can say to yourself, this is why we ask this question, and we hope you're not just jumping into the podcast, but we're talking about, are you in the right business for your personality, for your family, for your finances, for your well-being, for your temperament? And now we're on the last thing we're talking about is, are you in the right business for your work ethic, if you're a lazy person or you're high energy? You know what I mean? And we're going to be addressing both of those. And I think what she had says, got tired of the grind. She had put it in for 20 years. Now this is every day taping a show and you
but
got to be up,
but she
right?
had built but she had built her name.
Mm.
And by the time she decided to leave that show, I mean, she I think she was the richest woman in the world, if I'm not mistaken, at that point. But she had been immensely successful before she moved from Chicago to LA,
Yeah.
and started doing her the other projects that she's
And
working
she
on.
had peeled off multiple projects prior to that. One of the most strategic ones. Now she got her entre hustle on for real, because I think I used to read about how she builds stuff, right? And she started Harpo Productions as a means to have ownership.
Well, think about all the individuals that she spurred too, like Dr. Phil, Dr. Oz. Those individuals.
Rachel Ray,
Yep, that came.
and she still
You
gets
know,
money because she's EP,
I,
executive
I think
producer.
right. I think that people fail to see the holistic picture, but
So we would
very.
say
I
that she's
mean,
a high energy. She had the high energy work ethic. Would you say that that's what she had? High energy work
absolutely,
ethic.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Very high standards for herself. Very driven. Just and you have to look at that, and you have to be able to harness the energy that you have, and in knowing that like I said earlier, if you're going to go in the entrepreneurial space and think that you're going to be an immediate success, and then all of a sudden you're going to work 3 hours a week or 3 hours a day or whatever, you're
Yeah.
fooling yourself, because you're going to have to put in the time. Everybody has to put in the time in the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody has to take their lumps. I mean, look at Steve Jobs, fired from his own company.
Famous Amos fired from
yeah,
his own company.
and it,
Kalanick fired from his own company.
so
This is
there's
incredible.
a time where it's not going to be easy. There's a time where you're going to have to put in the energy.
Right.
The sad part of reality is most of us look at entrepreneurship and we only see the good times, and we see all these individuals who are immensely successful, but we don't see what it was like for them prior to that.
Right.
How much energy, how much time,
Right.
how much effort that they put, how much money, how much, whatever they put into that business.
We think of flexibility, right? And we go, wow, I have freedom. Well, not so much, right? And if you're that lazy entrepreneur, I tell you, there's a story I want to tell about this. And I tell you, man, this drove me nuts. Okay, here's the story. So my neighbor was getting a tree cut down, right? And she, called me up and says, "Hey, listen, this tree." At first, she tried to get me to contribute, and I was like, "Well, it's not on my property. It's just leaning over on my property." And then, she said, "Well, I think when we bought the house and we had the thing," I said, "Well, they put the stake in the ground and we could just walk back there and see that." So I did some research and found out that the majority of the roots were the majority of the trunk was in her yard. Therefore, it's her tree, right? It was just lean, and I can't cut it down. I wanted to, but I knew this. So when she had the people come in, they told her, "Hey, that's not his. That's yours." So I wasn't on the hook for that money. But here's what happened. But I have trees that are in my yard leaning over my house. I've been wanting to cut them for a long time. I literally was going to get up there myself, and I thought better of it. And then, so they come over, the tree cutting place comes over, cuts her tree down. Man, I was literally, think about this. I'm a warm customer. No, I'm hot, simply because all you have to do is knock on my door and says, "Hey, we're over here cutting your neighbor's tree down. Would you be interested in us cutting yours?" Mm-hmm. Heck yeah. And I wasn't going to say anything to them because that to me showed the lazy entrepreneur way, right? And then that made me think about another instance where I was trying to advise a guy who was painting another house that I had. I says, "Hey man, why don't you try this? While you're in the neighborhood painting my house, why not just go to the other neighbors and say, 'Hey, I'm cutting the house over there on Margaret or painting the house over there on Margaret. Would you be interested in me, touching up little spots on your house? I noticed a couple of areas, blah, blah, blah.'" I said, "Dude, you could stay in the neighborhood for the season."
Yep. I had
Did they do it though?
I had that same
Lazy
conversation.
Entrepreneurship.
With one of the owners in my neighborhood. I'm like, when you get your driveway poured, have the contractor come over and talk with me, and let's see if we can get like a discount if he does both of our driveways.
Right.
Well, never came over. Their driveway was poured, but just think, that cement truck could have just moved a few feet down the road.
Yep. And it's better. You get cheaper prices because they gotta get rid of the concrete and they want to have as much as possible.
The crew isn't packing all their stuff up and moving to another job across town.
Same with the tree cutters.
Yep.
You got the equipment. You're right next door. Didn't leave a card. Nothing. And you could see up there, they were cutting this tree down. You could see that, hey man, that's leaning over this guy's house. He needs this. And I was sitting over there like chomping at the bit, but I was not going to go out there. I wanted to see what the entrepreneur did. I'm sorry, John. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
no. I hear what you're saying. There's so much opportunity that we as business owners could capitalize on if we're willing to step out of our comfort zone. And I'll give another example really quick. Earlier this year, I paid to have my wife's vehicle detailed. She drives the kids around.
And
The
we're talking
kids,
that's some serious
yeah,
money, right? That had to
there's
be at least $250.
it was a good price. Yeah, it wasn't cheap. But anyway, the kids destroy her car.
Hmm.
She's
Hmm.
taking them all back and forth. So I told her, I said, I'll have somebody come and detail for you. Anyway, while the gentleman was in my neighborhood, he got another person in my neighborhood 3 houses down to do his vehicles. So
Now, did they go out and ask for the business, or did they happen to see him and go, "Hey, what are you doing?"
I don't know, to be honest with you. I just know that he was doing their stuff
That
after
you
he did
never
my
have to
stuff,
leave the
right?
neighborhood. John, lazy entrepreneurship is it gets into my craw, man. And probably in oftentimes because you have your own temperaments, you have your own tendencies, right? And you know that they say that you why you get so angry with things and stuff is because it's a part of you, and it's a part of you maybe you don't like in yourself. I don't like when I'm being lazy, right? But then knowing yourself enough, knowing your temperament, build the kind of business that allows you to maybe lean into that temperament, right? Build the kind of business that allows you to accentuate or your personality or protect you from the downside. Build the kind of business that is beneficial to your family. I used to tell guys when I was in the helping people get job space. I used to say, you see the guys, I don't have a job, right? And it's like, okay, what kind of things do you have coming at you? Oh, I got tons of child support, and not just men. Some women came in, they had child support situations too. And I says, okay, I says, do you see your kids and stuff like that? I says, no, I don't. So when I'm trying to help them get a job, it says, once we get you placed, I want you to start a business too, right? And I was encouraged from that simply because I says this is an opportunity for you to not only protect your income because you can earn above what a job and you can use the job to pay your child support. But what you also do is because you created a business, you can now hire your kids, spend time with them, give them a little check. You see, all these things then become an opportunity for you, right? And I had a lot of people listen to that. It's not just a job, it's getting your entre hustle on, right?
Mhm.
It is okay. And you see how that works is you have, like you were up there, like you said, helping put labels on your wife's pies. I'm guaranteeing you one of the kids
Absolutely.
was
They
also doing
so
some
many
stuff.
times, so many times. I have a my 8-year-old. She's making coasters and selling them right now. She's knitting uh, coasters to set your cup on, and she's been selling those on Facebook. And it's like, when you start doing that, when you start showing your children that, hey, these things are possible, what you're doing is opening up opportunities for the future for them. This is giving them the confidence that they need to be able to do what they want to do in life, and whatever that may be, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, or whatever. But you're planting those seeds that will be able to be harvested, where they're not dependent on a 9 to 5. They understand, what does it take to be an entre hustler.
That's a good piece, John. I know we want to wrap this up, but I want to show you guys something now. Now, here's the thing that we talk about and we warn against when you come up with an idea. And John, I want to show this live. I want to show this live. So John came up with the t-shirt, right? He had the idea, probably in the shower or something, think about, wait a minute, I need to come up with this. So now what we have to do now is our due diligence before we get too far ahead and start doing things. And it is, and this is what I suggest to entrepreneurs. So guys, watch this. What we do next is see if we have the domain name, right? Did you do that yet, John?
No.
All right. So this is one of the we kind of think as entrepreneurs that our idea is just, oh my God, it's the first thing. It's going to be beautiful. It's like nobody has this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and I'm going to see if I can get the domain name, right? So I want to go ahead and log into my account here real quick. I use let me go ahead and show you guys this real quick. Go over to share screen real quick, and I want to go ahead and pull it up, right? Get into it here. And can you see that, John?
I can't. No.
Oh, I didn't hit share yet. No wonder. All right, so what we're gonna do is I use name.com. You can use namecheap.com. You can use GoDaddy, whatever you want to use. So what I want to do is try to now find the domain. All right, let's see if I'm getting in. Oh, that didn't work. Let's see. I don't know my own. All right, so what we'll do is we'll then go in. Oh, there it is. Get the domain. What did I do here? Oh, there we go. All right, so now let's go ahead and grab the domain. Let's see, there's a renewal center. No, I don't want that one. We're gonna grab the domain, right? Find a domain. So what is it, John? Let's go ahead and hopefully it's available. Otherwise, we got to come up with another domain name for Entre Hustler. So
let's try Entre Hustler.
Entre Hustler.
Yep. TRE.
Yep. Good. Otherwise, it's say, yeah, you that's available. You're like, wait a minute, that's not spelled right. Right. So let's go ahead and get it. And I have a sneaking suspicion personally, but so is that spelled right? Everybody watching that?
Yep.
All right. All right. Let's see if we got it. AngelaHustler.com. Yes, it is available. So what we're going to do is go ahead and add that to cart. Entre, let's make sure we spell it right. See some of the things that you do now that cost pennies, $10. Come on, right? And we go and get the domain, and then now we can call ourselves EntreHustler.com. But it also says something else, right? You know, maybe not a lot of people are talking about this. So now we'll put Entre Hustler on a domain. If it wasn't available, I would go for straight up Entre Hustler, something like that. It's a little longer than I would like it, but it at least allows you to now own that space. So let's go ahead and go EntreHustler.com. What I like to do sometimes is I'll see if it's available. Then I'll go to the place where I'm going to build out the actual the site, and then I'll buy it there because it's just so easier to create, you know, the domain and all that kind of stuff. But this is cheap domain. You know, we can grab it. We're gonna grab this one, EntreHustler.com. Let's grab that right now. This is something that you got to be careful of too. Let's go ahead and grab EntreHustler.net. Yep. Okay.
It's probably cheaper if you grab the 3-pack up there.
I don't like messing with .org.
Okay.
Simply because I go, if somebody creates EntreHustler.org, because I got this one and this one, I can go and say cease and desist. No, don't call yourself that. Right. So then I just wanted to show you this, guys, that for $27. Now, here's what's funny is that it says $27, but they try to add on all this extra stuff. You don't need that. You know what I mean? You don't need the bundle. You just got what you got, right? And then you go ahead and check out. You see how it added immediately 4 things? Well, it's because it's adding protections and all that kind of stuff. So I like to go and says, nah, man, let's get rid of all this stuff that they're trying to add to it. I don't need G Suite and all that kind of stuff. I don't need web hosting. You know, I don't need site lock. So I'm going to go to checkout. You see it says $31, but then I'm going to peel off these. Take the $4 off of that one, take the $4 off of that one, and now we're at $21. Now, the point is, now we've gained and grabbed EntreHustler.com and EntreHustler.net to protect ourselves with the .net. And I do something really, really funny here. Sometimes, guys are getting the good stuff, right? I'll grab the .net and I'll create a whole site just .net and see if I can, play some keywords and stuff like that. Just, just stuff, go in a whole different direction, say totally different things, right? But in the .net space as opposed to the .com. You see what you can do? So many possibilities. You could be a whole different personality on the .net space, right? And that just gives you an opportunity. It's kind of like, and I got that idea from how I would, see washing machines, right? Or dryers. And you say, hey, wait a minute, there's one company that owns all of these. Yep, they got whole different branding. You got the higher end, you may have Whirlpool, but then Whirlpool, and they're all made in the factory in Benton Harbor. You can be that same way. You can say, wait a minute, I got entrehustler.com and I got entrehustler.net, and be two different personalities out there doing the same thing. Who else used to do that? Ben Franklin, right? He would write both sides. He would write, and I can't remember for which one of his businesses, but he would write the original saying, and then he'd write somebody attacking that saying, right? And then somebody over here is reading this because they don't like that, but they don't know that it's owned by the same person. It's crazy stuff. But that's what you get a chance to do when you start thinking about what business are you in, and then how can you now create from that. So you don't have to see, me going and buy it and all that kind of stuff. I'll do that here in a second, but you know what? I might as well go ahead and do it. But I got to go get my credit card number and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know if I want to do that right now. But anyway, so you go ahead and grab it. We have it. Next step, payment. You do some of those same things. Now, we don't want you doing that kind of stuff first necessarily. But if you kind of know that you have a little customer base, and you kind of know, I know that I can present this in front of a whole bunch of entrepreneurs that I have taught and all that kind of stuff, just put it in front of them. This is, hey, listen, we're giving, we're for $20, we're going to give you a planner and all this kind of stuff. And then who raises their hand? And as soon as they do, they get a link to the other download. They buy the shirt. Come on, they're out there with the stuff, straight up Entre Hustler. That's right. That's me. Right? We now create a website if we want to, or we just protect it. We can go out there and now, get in, put the trademark on it, right? All these kind of things that you now say, I have the trademark, if we can get it. Just because we got the domain does not mean we can get the trademark, right? You got to do some service, some search, and it takes a couple of bucks for that one. That one's a little expensive. I think like $300, right? But that might get you an opportunity to protect it and from being used anywhere, right? We have not only in the United States, but then you have some people over in other countries that can go and get the international rights. So you got to be careful about that. So just a couple of things as we wrap up, everybody. Asking yourself, are you in the right business for your personality, for your family, for your finances, for your well-being, temperament, and work ethic? We hope today's show has been something that you can look at and go, I have gotten some gems from this one. And we hope that we have a chance to see you next time. Come on in, become a subscriber to the show. If you're seeing us on YouTube, hit the subscribe button and hit the bell notifications, because I drop these things out every single week. Now, typically on Wednesday. I've been late a couple times, but don't worry about that. Typically on Wednesdays, we drop the show on Anchor, and then we drop the show on YouTube. All right, guys. John, you want to say a couple things before we go?
No. I thought great session, everyone. There's a lot of information there. Listen to it 2 or 3 times if you need to.
All right, pull from it. Get what you need, right? Like the preachers say, take what you need, right? Mm-hmm. Break it apart. Right? Call us up if you got questions. Find us. We're out there on the internet everywhere, and get in touch with us if you need us to look at your business. All right, come on and check it out. Grab some of this merchandise, man. This is the kind of stuff that says you are what you say you are, and you know what? Go out there in the world and make some money. All right, guys. We will see you next time. Hope you've enjoyed today. Let's talk again on next week.